That is the amazing, the great, the wonderful president of El Salvador, Nayib Bukele, dropping truth bombs in his recent interview with Tucker Carlson. Remember, Bukele just won re-election with 85% of the vote. This guy knows what he's doing when it comes to politics, and he's saying it bluntly. Either you take him out or you leave him alone. You either get rid of Trump entirely or you don't touch him. But whatever you do, you don't do what you've been doing. You don't harass him. You don't persecute him. You don't oppress him. You don't just stigmatize him or afflict him. That will backfire. And that is exactly what we're seeing happening right now, right before our very eyes. Gang, more and more pundits are openly admitting that the lawfare has officially backfired on bumbling Biden and the Democrats. We've got now one leftist coming out and admitting that Trump has already won. He's already won November. Wait until you see the reason he's giving for that. You're going to love it. And a former FBI director is worried that he's going to get arrested once Trump wins. Yeah, duh. The far right, the radical right are already taking over the European Parliament. They have elections all weekend, and the nationalist populists are poised to storm Brussels. You are not going to want to miss this. Greetings, everyone. It is Livestream Friday. I am your host, Dr. Steve, your Patriot Professor, here to help you stay sane in these insane times. So you know what to do. Whatever you do, make sure to smack that bell and subscribe button. We got a jam-packed show here for today. We're going to cover the fallout a week out from the verdict. We're going to see deep state hacks starting to panic. They are freaking out that an inevitable Trump win is going to jail them. You're going to love that. And we've got some amazing elections going on already in Europe. Now, unfortunately, as many of you know, our super chats have been disabled because of YouTube's completely and totally demonetizing this channel. So if you want to ask me your questions during the show, all you got to do is just click on that link below and go to fight.turleytalks.com and then just sign up here. There it is. Just sign up for any level of support that you like, whatever you can budget. You'll have instant access to our private virtual platform where you can ask me all of your questions. I'll answer them right here on our live stream. So just click on that link below, go to fight.turleytalks.com, sign up for any level of support, and I'll answer your questions on this live stream. It will be my honor. All right, let's dive right in here, gang. It has now officially been 1 week since that travesty in Manhattan, that venomous, vile, vindictive verdict that convicted President Trump of a crime that doesn't even exist. It has now been 1 week of the legacy media gleefully, exuberantly, exultantly declaring President Trump a convicted felon. Now, keep in mind, these people, these legacy media hacks who are unanimously declaring Trump a convicted felon are the very same people who refuse to utter the words illegal alien. The very people who are jubilantly rejoicing in calling Trump a convicted felon are the exact same ones who would never even think of uttering the words illegal migrant. After 1 week, 7 solid days of the legacy media framing Trump as a convicted felon, the dust from the fallout of the verdict has fully cleared. It is dissipated. And we are now in a position to survey the irrecoverable political damage that Trump was supposed to suffer as a result. Remember, we were told for months, if Trump becomes a convicted felon, that's it. This election is over. His support will drop. It'll implode. We have all the polls to prove it. Will you vote for President Trump? Yes. 47-43, Trump beating Biden by 4. Even if he's a convicted felon. Oh, no, I would never do that. Now it's suddenly Biden 50, Trump 12. That's what George Stephanopoulos was gleefully prognosticating for months. Trump, a convicted felon, will end his campaign and destroy the Republican Party. So here we go. The dust is cleared. 7 days in. Here's what we got. Here's the damage. Ready? Decision Desk. National polling average across the board. Donald Trump leads Joe Biden 41-39, the same beef as before the verdict. Real Clear Politics. National polling average across the board. Head to head, Donald Trump today leads Joe Biden 46-45. But in a five-way race, Trump pulls ahead by 6, 44-38, virtually the same as before the verdict. Project 538, national polling average across the board, head to head. Donald Trump leads Biden 41-39, virtually unchanged from before the verdict. Swing state polling averages, as you see there. In North Carolina, today, average, Trump is up 7. Nevada, Trump is up 6. Georgia, Trump is up 5. Arizona, Trump is up 5. Pennsylvania, Trump is up 2. In Wisconsin, Trump is up 1. Michigan, Trump is up by 1. And the poly markets, which are the betting odds on who's going to win 2024, poly markets has Trump up over Biden by 19, the biggest lead he has ever had. More than that, we now have the latest Fox poll. Fox polls are notoriously bad for Trump for whatever reason. We can get into that. I have my opinion on that. We have the latest Fox poll, and not only is it showing Trump leading in every single swing state that they polled, Arizona, Nevada. I don't know why they put in Florida there. Florida's not a swing state. Florida's absolutely deep red at this point. Miami-Dade is going Trump. Let's put it that way. There's no way Biden. Regardless, not only that, but now it is this officially the second poll in a row that shows a tie between Biden and Trump in the blue state of Virginia, a state that Biden won by 10 points back in 2020. It represents a 13-point swing over to Trump. Oh, yeah, and I almost forgot. Since the verdict, Trump has raised nearly $500 million. That's billion with a B. $500 million in 7 days. The dust from the verdict fallout has cleared. And more pundits are now openly admitting that not only has this weaponized lawfare not hurt Donald Trump, not only has he sustained the biggest and most corrupt political blow in the history of our nation without effect, they are now admitting it's all officially backfiring on Biden and the demonic Dems. And it's backfiring big time. The latest tip poll, the TIPP poll that surveyed voters in the days immediately following the verdict, actually found Trump gained a point in the court of public opinion. Trump's support actually went up. In their own survey, the New York Times has had to admit that based on their extensive survey of 2,000 voters, the verdict did nothing to move the needle one way or the other. If you hated Trump before the verdict, you still hated him. If you loved Trump before the verdict, you still loved him. If you're somewhat undecided, you're still undecided. The verdict did not sway a single voter one way or the other from Trump. In fact, the situation is actually even worse. Now we have the leftist pundit Mark Halperin basically admitting Trump has already won 2024. Unfortunately, the article itself is behind a paywall here, but it is a fascinating argument, and it goes beyond the observation that wherever the polls are in early June, 9 times out of 10, that's the election. Do you know? You guys know that? That's the result in November. I don't know if you know. In virtually every election, wherever the polls are in June, wherever we are right now, it's actually technically late May, but wherever we are in early June, that's a relatively accurate forecast, a relatively accurate indicator of where the results are going to be in November. That's why the Democrats are freaking out. That's why they are absolutely freaking out. Now, of course, there are exceptions. 2016 was an exception. Hillary was beating Trump. He ended up winning. 1988 was an exception. Dukakis was ahead of Bush Sr. But again, they were exceptions. The general rule is that wherever polls are in late May and early June, that's a relatively accurate predictor for who will win in November. Nobody knew, by the way, who Dukakis was back in June of 1988. They found out with him, with the Willie Horton ad and him in that stupid little tank. Remember, with his little head bobbing out of the tank commercial that the Bush campaign just bombarded him with. And people were still trying to figure out Trump back in 2016. This is a totally different election. Everybody knows who Trump is. Everybody knows who Biden is. Everybody knows. Everybody's got an opinion. And when the dust clears, Trump comes out on top. People overwhelmingly believe Trump was the better president, and they want him back. It's that simple. And this Halperin article actually argues in the end that Biden is his own undoing. It's not that the verdict is simply backfired. It's that the Trump campaign has been successful in zeroing in on Biden's Achilles heel and making that the key reference point of this campaign, and it is destroying the Democrats. In many ways, Halperin argues Trump has already won. Wait till you see this. You're going to love it. But first, if you are just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Then sign up for any level of support that you like, whatever works for you, and you will have immediate access to our own virtual platform where you can ask me all your questions. Our relationship together will never, ever, ever be interrupted. This is how we bypass big tech's attempts at censoring us. I'll be happy to answer any question you have. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up for any level of support, and you can ask me whatever question you like. I'll be happy to answer it. Also, you all know that with the current climate of the media industry, navigating the sea of bias and misinformation is obviously exhausting. Staying informed on the many different valuable perspectives is really good, but it's getting harder and harder to do. And that's why I rely on our sponsor, Ground News, to streamline my research. Ground News is available as a website and as an app. And instead of trying to sift through all the multiple sources myself, trying to see what every angle of a particular news story offers, Ground News does it for me. So let me show you how it works. Take any article, like take this article on Trump's lead over Biden in 6 of the 7 swing states. Now, when I use ground news, I can see that exactly 61 articles have covered this story. Interestingly, 60% of the sources are right-leaning. I wonder why. Why? Because, well, the left doesn't want you to know this story. So you see, this is one of ground news's best features. They cover the blind spots in the legacy media's reporting failures. So just go to ground.news/Dr. Steve to check it out. Head over right now to subscribe through my link. Get a 40% off unlimited access to the Vantage subscription. That's what I've got. So when you subscribe, you not only support our Turley Talks movement, but you also support an independent platform trying to make the news more transparent. So click on that link below right now. You're going to love them. All right. So Halperin is arguing, this is very interesting. Halperin is arguing that Trump has already won precisely because the Trump campaign has successfully made Biden's age and senility the number one issue of this campaign. Now, we predicted this. Remember, if you're regular to this channel, we've been predicting this for months now. Joe Biden's age and senility were going to be the number one issue of this campaign precisely because it is his Achilles heel. And it's an Achilles heel that the legacy media is doing absolutely everything they can possibly do to try to hide it from you. And they're failing miserably. And it's ultimately, therefore, what's going to sink Biden. Now, I'm sure you guys all saw those horrific scenes from Biden in Normandy yesterday to mark D-Day. I mean, they're calling it poopy pants. That's what was trending. It looks like he's pooping in his pants, right? All day yesterday. Biden dropping Biden just dropped the first bomb on Normandy at 80 years. I think that's another one of what Babylon B said. He obviously didn't know where he was. He didn't know what he was doing. I mean, Jill had to lead him by the hand off stage. You can tell she's always a little bit ahead. He's just trying to keep up in that shoe shuffle of his. His cognitive decline is obviously getting worse. I mean, just compare where he was in 2020. He was bad in 2020, but now, I mean, my heavens. This week, we had the bombshell, and his cognitive confusion are even worse behind the scenes. Aides and lawmakers, speaking anonymously, obviously, have confirmed that they are deeply concerned that Biden's cognitive decline is actually getting dangerous at this point, which, of course, blows apart the White House's claim that somehow Biden is different behind the scenes. Yeah, I know he bumbles in front of the cameras and, so forth, but he's as sharp as a tack behind the scenes. When all is said and done, according to the report, it's worse. Behind the scenes, he's even worse. The drugs have worn off, and it's not a pretty picture. And members of the legacy media know exactly what's going on here. And they are utterly freaking out over this. They know if this becomes the number one issue of this campaign, Biden is done. He is done. Here is MSNBC's resident lunatic, Joe Scarborough, having a complete temper tantrum over this report. Check it out.
But Mike, it's not that complicated. It's just not, we don't have to talk.
Look at who they quote.
We don't have to talk to anybody, Richard, but the person they quote, Kevin McCarthy, who is the source. Again, Kevin McCarthy, who is on a sort of PR tour right now to clean up the fact, and Politico's written a story about this, the fact that he lies.
He lies.
The fact that he bounces back and forth. He's trying to go on basically a PR tour. But we don't have to ask world leaders, but please feel free to jump in. Let's just talk to the guy that was the source of this story and quoted. McCarthy mocked Biden's age and mental acuity in public while privately telling allies in private he found the president to be sharp and substantive. He called him very professional, very smart, very tough. And this same meeting, again, that the Wall Street Journal is basing this story on Kevin McCarthy's lies.
You're a tough guy.
Kevin McCarthy's lies, which It's in the press. There is a mountain of quotes from Kevin McCarthy and people around Kevin McCarthy saying that Biden is sharp. He's mentally sharp, privately. So go ahead, talk about what I talked about, talking to world leaders, talking to, but again, it's just not complicated.
No, it's not.
They went to a guy who has admitted that he lies in public and that privately Biden is very sharp.
This is hilarious. Kevin McCarthy is an admitted liar. He's an admitted liar. So we can't trust anything he said. We could just dismiss this whole Wall Street Journal article report because McCarthy is an admitted liar. Yeah. Hey, Joe, you mean like Michael freaking Cohen? You mean like Michael freaking Cohen, who a federal judge declared a serial perjurer? We should throw out his entire testimony because he's an admitted liar, right? You now readily agree that conviction against Trump, just like this Wall Street Journal article, is a bunch of bunk, right? It's no more valid because they're all admitted liars, right? And they seriously. And they wonder why nobody watches. They wonder why the Washington Post has lost $80 million in a year and 50% of their audience. They wonder why CNN had to sell their iconic Atlanta building. They wonder why they're dying. They wonder why the legacy media is. Scarborough is having a meltdown there, not because he's concerned about truth or facts or anything like that. He's having a meltdown there because he knows Biden is senile. He knows Biden is in cognitive decline, and he is paid to lie about it. And he's mad, and he knows most media folk, everyone on that stage there, was paid to lie about it. And he thought the Wall Street Journal was paid to lie about it too. And they didn't. They're going somewhere else. And he's freaking out. Look, I've said this over and over again on this channel. If you're regular, you know it. It's almost like it's a broken record. Biden's dementia is his Achilles heel. You got to get that. Make sure you know that politically. It's not the economy, as serious as that is, not inflation. It's not the southern border. It's not the violent crime epidemic. It's not the threat of nuclear war. It's not the unraveling the world order. It's not, make no mistake, those are all bad enough, no question. But when all is said and done, the underlying subtext to all of that is that the world and the nation are unraveling because Biden's brain is unraveling. The underlying subtext to all of those issues is the painfully obvious degenerative senility that Biden displays for us every day. And the reason why this is his Achilles heel is because all those other issues can reverse themselves. The economy could reverse itself. Border policies could reverse themselves, which, of course, even the Biden administration is desperately trying to convince the American people. I think futilely, but they're trying to convince the American people that he's reversing the problem at the border right now as we speak with his executive action. Despite Republican resistance, everything else can reverse itself. Foreign policy can reverse itself. Inflation can reverse itself. Crime can reverse itself. Anything and everything from today to November can reverse itself. It can be rectified, except Biden's age and senility. His age and senility are the only things his campaign and people like Joe Scarborough know not only have no possibility of reversing themselves, but are only going to get worse. They know that. This is Biden's Achilles heel. This is what keeps Joe Scarborough up at night. Scarborough and his fellow Democrat ilk know that voters are not going to reelect someone they believe is not cognitively fit for the job. They know it. They know that voters are not going to vote in somebody with dementia. It's just that simple. And Halperin is basically making the argument that the Trump campaign has effectively made Biden's cognitive incompetence the centerpiece of this campaign. And if it comes down to that, just like I explained, it's over. The election is over. Trump is going to sweep the swing states. It's over. I don't think there's enough shenanigans they could possibly pull off. Trump has already won. That's the argument. And the deep state knows it. The deep state is actually coming to terms with this. They're openly saying this in interviews. That's why they're starting to panic. Wait until you see what deep state hacks like Andrew McCage are openly saying. You're going to absolutely love it. But first, gang, if you are just joining us, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on that link below, join any one of our levels of support, and you'll have access to your own virtual platform with me that can never, ever be interrupted by big tech overlords. You can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them on this live stream. Just click on that link below. Go to fight.charlietalks.com. Sign up for any level of support over here, and I'll be happy to. You have immediate access to our virtual platform where I will answer your questions. I'll answer them right here, but you can ask me any of those questions now. And as you know, gang, it is springtime. The bees are out and buzzing. I see them all over my house and my beautiful garden, but they're doing a lot more than just pollinating. Now bees are saving America from the woke wave of leftist culture that's trying to wipe out all that's good and true. I kid you not, Turley Talks is now teaming up with Make Honey Great Again to bring you something truly spectacular. Maga honey. Gang, this stuff is unbelievable. You can now get a 16-ounce bottle of pure, raw, ultra Maga honey packaged in a bottle. Looks just like our great president, Donald Trump. It's untouched raw honey, and it comes straight from 11,000 hives in South Carolina. It's all natural. It's amazing. I'm telling you, gang, honey never tastes as good as it does coming from a Trump-inspired bottle. Trust me, it's amazing. So what are you waiting for, gang? Visit MakeHoneyGreatAgain.com or just click on the link below, MakeHoneyGreatAgain.com. Use promo code TURLEY to show your support, and we can make honey and America great again. Click on that link below right now. You're going to love it. I love honey. There's nothing like natural, wonderful honey like this. This is just too much fun. I'm having more fun than a human should be allowed to have, as President Trump, as good old Rush Limbaugh would say. We now have the fired former deputy FBI director, Andrew McCabe, perhaps one of the single most odious, incompetent people on the planet, openly admitting that he and his ilk are afraid of going to jail if and when Trump wins. Now, I kid you not, he's even admitting that some of his deep state swamp ilk are openly talking about fleeing the country if Trump wins. I mean, this is almost delicious as that Maga honey that we were just featuring there. This is so wonderful. I mean, look, I'm just going to cut to the chase here. How stupid do you have to be? I mean, how dementedly stupid do you have to be to think that you could try to jail a former president and the Republican Party's candidate for 2024? How demented do you have to be to think you could try to put him behind bars, but there are going to be no repercussions? I know. The Republicans make that kind of stupidity very plausible. The incompetent, feckless, corrupt, cowardly Republicans, I get it. They don't do jack shit. I get it. So you think you could do this without repercussions, but what if he wins? What if he wins? What if he now has the power of the presidency over the deep state? Now what? So the deep state is freaking out here. They're recognizing precisely what Nayib Bukele, the president of El Salvador, said at the beginning of the video that you all heard. This is all just making Trump stronger. All of this weaponized lawfare is actually increasing Trump's support. And again, we understand why. Trump is getting support from primarily two constituencies, two national constituencies, both of whom feel the most disenfranchised from our legal system and just from our political system as a whole. He's getting record support among white rural voters and record support for Republican among non-white urban voters. White rural voters and non-white urban voters are the two constituencies most likely to identify with someone getting persecuted by an unjust system. It's not going to be the pro-Palestinian progressives who are running around, protesting. They can't relate to this. The upper middle class gentrified suburbanites, they don't relate to this. But white rural folk who've long felt completely ostracized by the system, by the government, and non-white urban folk who've consistently felt ostracized and completely disenfranchised from the system, they are now galvanizing around someone who literally represents them. And so that's why Trump's support is only going up as a result of this. And so if this article is accurate, it looks like these deep state swamp rats are going to have to start booking their flights out of the country relatively soon. It's absolutely hilarious. And as it turns out, it's not just President Trump. It's not just the United States. Civilizational populism is flourishing literally everywhere. Let's go on over to Europe. Let's travel across the pond and see what's going on with the European Parliament elections. If you don't know, Europeans across the continent are heading to the polls this weekend for the European Parliament elections. Over the course of the next 4 days, nearly 400 million citizens in 27 countries will vote to elect representatives from their respective countries to serve as lawmakers in the European Parliament in the Belgian capital of Brussels. Altogether, 720 representatives will be elected. It all started yesterday, June 6th, with the great nation of the Netherlands. And we're now getting reports that the nationalist populist extraordinaire Geert Wilders, fresh off his victory in their national elections, Geert Wilders and the Dutch Freedom Party are absolutely now crushing it in their European elections. Exit polls are showing that the European continent is indeed swinging way to the right in these elections, if the Netherlands are any indicator. If the exit polls are correct, the Dutch Freedom Party, that's the Netherlands Patriot Party, has gone from 0 seats in the European Parliament. They have never won a European election before. They've gone from 0 seats to winning upwards of 20% of their seats. Altogether, the Netherlands has 31 seats in the European Parliament. It looks as if the Dutch Freedom Party has won 7. The Green Party has won 8. It looks like the Green Party's come in first, which again is just par for the course of the way we've been doing politics over the last couple of decades in Europe. So it looks like the Green Party's come first, but to everyone's shock, it's not the center right or the center left or anything like that. It is this full-blown nationalist populist, very anti-Islamist, very civilizationalist party known as the Dutch Freedom Party. They have come in either second or first. We're still figuring out there. So that's a huge, huge development, especially in a multi-party election. Remember, there are dozens of parties running in the Netherlands for election. And so if you're coming out with 20% of support, that's huge. You're a major party. And this is the far right, radical right, going from 0 to now 20% of their seats. It's absolutely gigantic. But more than that, it confirms what pundits, particularly liberal pundits, were so utterly afraid of here. This year's European Parliament elections promises to be nothing less than a total and complete political earthquake. The polls for months now have been showing that Europeans are ready to vote in their single most right-wing nationalist populist government ever. So, for example, we talked about this the other day in France. Polls are showing that 1 in 3 voters are now going to be voting for Marine Le Pen's National Rally, which is France's version, their Patriot Party. That's double the amount who plan to vote for French President Emmanuel Macron's party En Marche. And just to show you how the demographics are changing here, this is so cool. The National Rally is being led in terms of the European Parliament vote by the 28-year-old Jordan Bardella. Jordan heads the party's list for the EU parliamentary elections. Bardella is terrifying globalists all over the world because he represents the new right. He's the new right of the emerging Zoomer right, voters under the age of 30. In fact, polls show that the National Rally, in particular in France, and just nationalist parties all over Europe, but particularly National Rally, they're getting their strongest support among the youngest voters who share nothing of the loyalty older voters have for the more traditional center-right, center-left parties. I mentioned in a video that I did the other day that Foreign Policy magazine actually recently featured an article that found that the youth vote, the under 30 vote, is actually what's swinging Europe to the so-called far right. It's the youth vote. It's the youth vote that promises that the nationalist populist wave that's sweeping the continent is just beginning. We ain't seen nothing yet. Now, if you don't know, this completely contradicts what's called the cultural backlash thesis. Remember that. You might want to write that down, the cultural backlash thesis, because you'll hear it a lot on MSNBC. You'll hear it a lot on CNN. It actually has more to do with European politics, but it's a term derived from a book recently published, relatively recently, a few years back, by 2 university professors, Pippa Norris and Ronald Engelhardt, who argued that the political success that populists were having around the world, like with President Trump or with Brexit, or Viktor Orban in Hungary, Nayib Bukele in El Salvador, Narendra Modi in India, that all of that success was temporary. And it's temporary because it's simply nothing more than a massive backlash. I kid you not. It's basically a backlash made up of primarily old white men. This is a serious thesis. I mean, this is MSNBC in a nutshell. MSNBC literally eats, sleeps, and drinks the cultural backlash theory. And when all said and done, this is just for cope. No, I mean, the populist and patriot movements around the world, they argue, are thriving simply because a bunch of bigoted, racist, old white men are reacting en masse. They have one last hoopla against the inevitable demographic and cultural transformations initiated by increasingly non-white, migrant, and young populations. But the key to this thesis is that this resistance is only temporary. And that's because we all know, again, that's the key assumption to this thesis, we all know that young voters, the youth vote, are the most progressive, left-wing liberal we've ever seen. And so as these older white voters inevitably die out, and as the young, idealistic, progressive leftists take over, a massive woke wave will inevitably cover the globe. That is what is known as the cultural backlash thesis. And these European elections are showing just how utterly, completely full of shit that thesis is. It's actually the opposite. That's what all the data shows. It's the older voters who are actually the ones who are most inclined to support the globalist liberal status quo. It's the younger voters who are the ones who are most attracted to the far right, radical right nationalist populists. Case in point, the AfD, the Alternative for Deutschland, the Alternative for Germany. They are the Nationalist Populist Party in Germany. They are now the number one most popular party among 14 to 29-year-olds. In a recent survey called the Youth in Germany Study, researchers found that the under 30 German population is incredibly pessimistic about the state of things in Europe and around the world. They're very pessimistic about the economy, about inflation, but most especially about immigration, unfettered immigration. And the AfD is clearly persuaded the under 30 vote that all of these problems are caused by a globalist elite who do not care about them, who are violating German sovereignty, and care only about their own power and affluence. And German youth are hardly alone. This is the same pattern we're seeing in nation after nation after nation all over Europe. It is actually the young people who are far more prone to vote for the so-called far right than the older people. The cultural backlash thesis could not possibly be more wrong. And it's because, again, it has to do with this notion of alignment. Older voters are still aligned. They still have a strong loyalty and affinity for the old mainstream center-left, center-right parties they grew up with post-World War II. The youth are going through a massive process known as de-alignment. The youth are the radicals. They are completely de-aligned. They have no loyalty whatsoever to a single party. And therefore, they are far more likely to vote for so-called third parties, for, in this case, the far right, than our older voters. The cultural backlash thesis should be called the cultural bunk thesis. So we'll keep a very, very close eye on the results of the elections over the weekend, which really do promise to be a massive political earthquake shifting the continent of the so-called far right like never before. And can you imagine what we may be having in a few months? We may be having a right-wing Europe, a right-wing Middle East, a right-wing Eurasia, a right-wing Latin America, increasingly so. Forget Mexico. A right-wing Africa, particularly sub-Sahara and Sahel region, and then a right-wing Maga, America First, November. I mean, it's going to be absolutely. And then we got to get Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives in Canada. We got an amazing year moving to the right. Over to you. Remember, if you want to ask me your questions, because YouTube has suspended our super chats, just click on the link below. Sign up for any one of our levels of support, and you have access to our own virtual platform. You can ask me all your questions. I'll be happy to answer them in this live stream. Just click on the link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up for any level of support. Ask me your questions. It'll be my honor to answer them here with you. Also, as Josh, our moderator, assembles the questions that you've already been putting in here, there is someone that you will love to see back.
I'll be back.
That's right, gang. He is back. It's time to show our support and celebrate the great return by clicking on the link below and getting your very own Trumpinator 2024 bobblehead. I want to be in that pilot's plane. You can fly me anywhere he wants. In preparation for Donald Trump's glorious reascendance to the United States presidency, this collectible bobblehead from Proud Patriots is made with the highest quality material, and it really is a must-have for any Trump fan who wants to send some positive energy towards what is truly shaping up to be, and you guys can all feel it, the most glorious political comeback in history. So don't wait, gang. There are just a limited number of these collectibles, and you don't want to be caught paying way more later on eBay from someone who just bought one now. So whatever you do, don't wait. Click on that link below and go right now and show your support for Trump 2024 today. I love the bobblehead, man. I can't stop looking at it. I can't stop. I'm just getting distracted looking at it. I love the bobblehead, our Trump bobblehead. I got one back there, right there. He watches over us. You see him right? Let's see. Let me get my right there. There he is, right there, looking over us, keeping us safe. All right, Josh, what do we got? What questions we have from people? David, question. Why are there so few Republicans who understand the threat neocons, neolibs pose? Can you plug the Duran some more? Of course, I'd love to plug the Duran. I will always plug Alex and Alexander. Let's see. Let me get the blank page here. All right. Why are so few Republicans who understand the threat neocons, neolibs pose? So, David, I'm going to assume you're talking about Republicans who are in power. Because I think most the grassroots recognize it. Republicans in power are part of the same cultural space that give us neocons and neolibs. Neocons and neolibs, when all said and done, are globalists. They are Pax Americana, unipolar proponents, meaning that they still believe it's 1991. The Soviet Union just fell. The United States is the only superpower in the world. We now get to do politically and economically whatever we want. It was a time where people made massive fortunes as a result, both through the military-industrial complex, but just through the corporate world as more and more nations were turning, including China, of course, turning towards corporate finance-based economies. Investments were going through the roof. It was, this is Bill Clinton profited off of this. He did great, just politically. It rocked and rocked and rocked until we hit the 2008 global financial crisis. And then it all came crashing down, obviously. And then we're still recovering from it. And in many ways, that was sort of the end. I think Obama was the last hurrah of the neocon and neolibs. I mean, Biden is just a joke of a candidate, or joke of an interim at this period, just a belch in American history, as Rush Limbaugh constantly referred to Bill Clinton as. So I just think we have to understand that our current political class in this refeudalized society that we're living in, with this kind of caste system, with those in power having more affluence than ever. 400 billionaires controlled half the world's assets. 5 years ago today, it's only 100 billionaires. The good news is the billionaires are starting to go to Trump, which is a very key sign we're going to keep an eye on. That does indicate some movement, that the paradigm is finally collapsing. And that's what we're looking for. We're basically looking for this cultural space of a unipolar Pax Americana world that no longer exists, as Alex and Alexander the Duran remind us every single day. That world no longer exists, but the hangover, what's it called? There's a technical term for it in post-normal. Why am I forgetting? In post-normality studies, lag. It's known as a post-normal lag. The institutional lag from an old world that no longer exists continues, but it does eventually dissipate. And one of the ways we'll know it has finally dissipated is when billionaires in mass move over to the Trumpian populist side, and then create this kind of strange, or what did Aristotle call it now? Populist elite, populist oligarchy. I'm forgetting. There was a term that Aristotle used. Aristotle believed the ideal government was not simply the rule of the people, because that's the French Revolution. It wasn't simply a rule of an oligarchy. That's what we're dealing with now. It had to be a combination, a balance between an elite oligarchy who nevertheless have embraced and who protect and who defend and who perpetuate the values of the people. That's when you've got a humming society. That's what Putin has done. That's what Nayib Bukele is doing in El Salvador. That's what Viktor Orban's done in Hungary. That's what Narendra Modi is doing in India. It's very much what I think Erdogan has done in Turkey. is you've got to find this balance between the elite, the billionaires and so forth, and the people. They've got to come into a coherent whole. If they do, your society is going to flourish. So there you go. And Alex and Alexander, the Duran gang, go and subscribe to them. They are the best. I love Alex and Alexander. Kenneth Bryant, good to hear from you, Kenneth. Since Joe Biden has authorized the use of U.S. weaponry inside Russia's border and continues with his inflammatory rhetoric against Putin, this would seem to be yet another incident escalating up to the open outbreak of World War III. Do you believe an argument could be made that we are already in World War III in its earliest stages? Possibly. I mean, it's proxy. It's not direct United States versus Russia. That would be World War III. I may be totally wrong, Kenneth. I just get the sense Putin sees Biden and his entire administration, Blinken and all these guys, as such pathetic jokes that they don't take him. Putin does not take them very seriously. That's just the sense I get. Now, of course, and keep in mind, Russia can absorb blows that Western countries can't. We've been very pacified and therapeutized in how we do war. We are not used to casualties. Russians can sustain casualties. They know how to. It's just part of their culture. It's a stunning characteristic of what makes one uniquely Russian. Is you can handle the Russian population can handle loss in a way that, say, American population simply can't. And so, yes, this is an escalation. Yes, this is bad. And all the indicators show that Putin is going more the ceremonial route, conducting war games in the Caribbean, for example, showing that the unipolar moment is over and we're now in multipolar mode. And there are multiple power centers, multiple hegemons, not just one. That's what started this war in the first place, that virtually everybody in the media class is completely ignorant of. So, yeah, I don't think we're in World War III officially. By proxy, we are. We're having others fight as we're, i.e. Ukraine. It is very dangerous. But fortunately, I think Putin sees this. He just sees these guys as a bunch of clowns. And I don't think he thinks they're going to do a lot because they are so clownish and so incompetent. We'll see. Thank you, Kenneth. Marilyn Nagati, Dr. Steve, I'm worried about the bird flu, a pandemic that COVID-style policies are coming. What do we do? Is there any hope? Of course, there's always hope. Come on, Aragorn says that in the Two Towers. You never lose hope. There is always hope. I don't think you have to worry about it. I don't think, particularly Americans, I don't even think Europeans are going to buy it. Look at what happened to the WHO and their pandemic treaty. It went down in flames. Not even Japan wants it. Not even Japan wants it. So I don't. They may try it again, but the resistance to it will be enormous. The Supreme Court has already ruled that virtually all the mandates were unconstitutional. I don't think we have to worry about it at this point. I'm not seeing anything other than just some very concerned headlines in right-wing media that I wouldn't worry about at this point. Kelly, glad to hear the RNC said they will do whatever is necessary to accommodate Trump for the nomination on the 15th. Should Trump keep his plans to go after lawfare perps secret until after the election? Turley Pickers for Trump 2024. I love it. Yeah, probably. Yeah, I would keep it secret. Definitely. Hold your cards close. But it is very clear the rumblings we're hearing from the deep state is they're getting very concerned. They really do believe, especially with Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, and these guys going to jail. They really do believe they're next. They're going to be rounded up. They know the feckless Republicans aren't going to do anything other than send out mean tweets. They know that. That's why they're undeterred. There is no effective deterrence. And we could talk about why that is and all that. But I think in the end, they know Trump is not so deterred. And they know with the power of the presidency and with the Republican Party that's just going to look at the Democrats going, well, we told you so. You shouldn't have done that to him. What did you expect? You asked for it. They're not going to be sympathetic. You're not going to have a Paul Ryan getting in Trump's way. So, I think they're scared, shall we say, proverbially shitless about the prospects of what's going to happen to them if Trump wins. So I've heard in that article with Andrew McCabe, he openly said he knows deep state operatives who are going to leave the country if Trump becomes president because they're afraid. They're afraid for their well-being. John, which of Trump's potential VP candidates would be most feared by the Democrats? So I guess for me, Byron Donalds is probably feared. I think he's probably feared. I think Ben Carson might, believe it or not, he's very soft spoken, but I think they're concerned that if he has power, that he could use it in a way that fully aligns with a Maga takeover. I don't know enough about Burgum from North Dakota. And I'm hesitant with Rubio. I don't think they fear him at all. And I think JD Vance definitely. I think he's too new and he's been too solid to make them comfortable. Let's put it that way. So of the 7, those are, I'd say Vance, Carson, and Donalds. I think of the 7. And now again, it could be someone from outside. That's so typical Trump. He would do that. He would, this would all be diversion where you have somebody, the real one, coming out. General Flynn would give the deep state a heart attack. Absolute heart attack. Anyone who's been the victim of the deep state, that's who I would love to see. Someone who has been a victim, or Steve Bannon, Peter Navarro, something like that. Anyone who has felt the wrath of the deep state now getting in a position of power. But again, keep in mind, VPs don't have power. It's just you want to have someone who's more radical than Trump, that the deep state fears more, so that Trump it's an insurance policy so that he stays in power. They don't try to take him out. So there you go, John. That's what I'm thinking. Let me know what you think. Missy, why such a rhino infested list for Trump's VP? Rubio serious? I'm with you, Missy. Again, I don't know if it's a divergence. I don't know if it's to keep some billionaires happy. Again, it doesn't mean he's picking him. I don't know. I don't know the answer to that. I'm not in the inner circle enough. The good news is I think Tim Scott is getting pushed out. I thought Tim Scott was way too rhino for me. Way too rhino. After the raid at Mar-a-Lago, he was one of the ones who said, well, we're going to have to wait and see. We're going to have to sit back and wait and see wait and see. I am so sick of these wait and see Republicans. So anyway, I don't know, Missy. Vlad the Impaler, did cannibals eat the wrong Biden? Apparently so. Somebody made a comment. Who was it? I forget who made the comment. Just something like, yeah, never trust somebody whose uncle got eaten by cannibals. Maybe you guys remember. Put it in the comments if you remember it. That's hilarious. Keith, you say you help us stay sane in these insane times, which is true. Just wondering who helps you stay sane in these insane times other than your faith. I was just going to say, our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ keeps me sane, of course. And that's not it's not hyperbole. Whenever I feel a little overwhelmed, if I focus on eternity, if I focus on the logos, in the Orthodox faith, it's easy. I just have to look at an icon. I just have to walk into a church, walk into a monastery, and boom, I am in heavenly civilization. Earthly insanity ends up immediately getting relativized. Who helps me stay safe? I'll give them another plug. Alex and Alexander at the Duran. Their analysis always keeps me sane. Oh my, there's just so many. I love our team. I think we've got a dream team of guys. Jack Posobiec is amazing. Benny Johnson is doing a great job. He's always optimistic and fired up. I love Steve Bannon. He keeps me fired up. He's no jail cells going to keep him quiet. Again, it's only going to make him stronger. I do like, in terms of analysis, I do like Matthew Goodwin, the British scholar. He has been studying nationalist populism now for about 10 years or so, probably over that. Yeah, I'm sure over that. And he was mocked and ridiculed back in 2016. I can still remember it, when he talked about how Trump was the wave of the future, Marine Le Pen was the wave of the future, Viktor Orban, Nigel Farage, Brexit, the Brexit campaign at the time. Everyone just laughed at him. Then Brexit passes. Then Trump wins. Then we just start to see nationalist populists all over the place. The Austrian Freedom Party becoming the second most popular party in Austria. They're about to win, by the way, their election. They're number one most popular party that in September, if I recall. Everyone mocked him and ridiculed him. I followed him very closely. I'd love to interview him. His scholarship is brilliant. Eric Kaufman, especially his work on demographics, showing that the world is becoming far more religious and religiously conservative just by virtue of the fact that religious populations are growing through pronatal practices, through fertility. So those are the things, those big picture it's relatively new field of study, but civilizationalism is huge right now. If anything, I mean, this channel is going to more and more pivot towards civilizationalism around the world, because this is changing the world order like we never even dreamed. I mean, Narendra Modi just won his third landslide election in a row. It was a smaller win than we thought. But still, I mean, 3 in a row. Viktor Orban, 4 in a row. Nayib Bukele, 85%. Putin, and everyone thinks, oh, that's not valid. Yes, it is. Putin is an incredibly successfully popular politician in Russia. Just ask any Russian. Ask any expat. And you will find if they figure out that you're reasonable and they can talk to you, watch. Even if they don't like Putin, they're going to tell you exactly why so many people like him. Erdogan in Turkey, 4 landslide election victories in a row. I mean, it's just nationalist populism is becoming civilizationalist populism. And this new scholarship, it's very new. It's only about 4 years old. That's coming out, talking about the rise of civilization states and the civilizationalist order around the world. That is what keeps me no matter what happens here, even if Biden pulls off the win, which is going to be as corrupt as you could possibly get. It already is with what they've done with Trump. But even if he pulls off the win, the world is going civilizationalist. We're just going to be the last one to join. So that keeps me very, very hopeful. Thanks, Keith. Azita, I'm concerned about World Health Organization health mandate. I don't think you have to worry about it, Azita. It looks like it's collapsed. Again, even Japan is opposed to it. European nations totally opposed to it. They want nothing. They've pressured the EU to back off on it, which they have. I don't think you have to worry. It's not going anywhere here in the United States. You actually have individual states like Louisiana passing laws. Oklahoma's the latest one that says they are banning being held accountable to anything coming from the WHO. So I think you're okay. Again, they're always going to try, But the basic infrastructure, the globalist infrastructure that they relied on or have relied on over the years to implement a lot of their policies has basically collapsed around the world and is collapsing. Jeffrey, Steve, what are your thoughts on suspending the Constitution, rounding up the known communists in the United States, and then revoking their citizenship and deporting them? Tell us what you really think, Jeff. I don't know. I mean, obviously, we have to fight fire with fire, and that's basically what they're doing, isn't it? That's basically what they're doing. How far do we want to go? I don't know. That I'm going to leave that to Trump and his team. But there's no question we have to go full animal. Even John Yoo of Berkeley University is at Berkeley Law School is admitting that. A lot of people in the National Review would normally be, we have to sit back and wait and see and let the process unfold. They're recognizing, no, this is it. We've crossed the Rubicon. The Democrats have totally destroyed the rule of law, and only feeling the heat of what they have unleashed will get them to stop. Sam, comment on the new president of Mexico. How will relations between Mexico and the U.S. change? I don't know. I don't know enough about her. She just seems like a radical lib. Mexico's weird, to be honest with you. They don't seem to go along. I mean, because Guatemala has a conservative president, El Salvador has a conservative president. I guess Lula's wacky, but he's wacky populist. Maybe she is. I don't know enough about her, but yeah, we'll see. I don't know how things will change with Mexico. I'm sure the Biden administration loves her. Patriot Jules, do you agree with Alan Dershowitz that Trump attorneys should all for sentencing now, or call for sentencing now to speed up the appeal process, or would July be even better at giving him more strength? Yeah, I saw that with Dershowitz. I mean, if it's legal advice, I would obviously tend to go with what Dershowitz says. I'd have to hear it from Turley, Jonathan Turley, my namesake. I'd have to hear it from Robert Barnes, what they think, to render a real judgment on it. Again, I think either way, Trump. Well, I don't know why you want to. Why do you want to speed up the appeal process? The appeal process. Maybe Dershowitz believes that Trump's going to get. I mean, most everyone believes it's going to get overturned. I was under the impression there was no way it was going to get overturned before the trial, that the process would take too long. But maybe Dershowitz knows something, and then he thinks that would help Trump. Again, I think Dershowitz is guilty a little bit of post-normal violation. In other words, we live in post-normal times, which is an interim period, a transitionary period between a era that's come to an end and a new era that has yet to establish itself. So the globalist world that's come to an end no longer provides the norms for understanding how to make sense of things today. And I think I get the sense that Dershowitz relies a little bit too much on the old world and its norms for trying to strategize for today. Whereas you need something wholly different. You need to draw from what are called the 3 C's of post-normal times: complexity, chaos, and contradiction. You have to draw from those frames of reference to decide what's best to do. Don't go back to prior precedent, because it doesn't. Obviously, prior precedent means nothing today, right? Just ask the Democrats. So anyway, we'd have to see. Terry, will anyone go to prison? It would take wholesale replacement of all United States attorneys and their staff with men having the stones to arrest everyone involved, and probably convene a special tribunal with Eileen Cannon in charge. That'd be great. Does Trump have the will and the support to make it happen? Oh, definitely he has the will and support. Oh, my, yeah. Now he does. He's been the victim of it. He's been sitting in court. He's been paying the legal fees. He's got jail staring him right in the face. Oh, yeah. He's got the will, and I think he has overwhelmingly the support. I think most people feel the Democrats brought this on themselves. If Democrats start getting arrested, indicted, charged, and convicted, and then sent to prison, they only have themselves to blame. I think most people believe that. How far could Trump go with it? I don't know. I don't know what stomach people have. I don't know. Again, we are in complex times, chaotic times, contradictory times. So it's hard to navigate that. But I think if anyone has the will to do it, Trump does. Marcode saw some newspaper headlines crowing about Modi having to form a coalition this cycle. Does he have an option that isn't irredeemably globalist? Yeah, he does. I haven't looked at all the fallout from the election. It takes a little bit of time when 1.4 billion people are, and yet they get it done in just a few days. That's the amazing thing. 1.4 billion people voting, and they have the results in literally 48 hours. So we'll have to see. But yes, Modi, his support is derived from being fully supportive of Hindutva, which is basically kind of, for lack of a better term, like a Hindu Sharia law, bringing Hinduism into every aspect of life. Remember, before the BJP, the Indian politics, as they were governed by the Congress, were the National Congress was just they were thoroughly European, trying to impose a church-state separation on the Indian people that never made it into the heart and soul of the Indian people. They don't even believe in, quote, Hinduism. They see Hinduism in many respects as a Western construct. To be Indian is to have a particular 24/7 spiritual orientation to the cosmos that does not get, pushed off to the side and marginalized just because of some Western secularized standards. That's what's made Modi so popular. He's articulated that, rooted in the RSS. The BJP has articulated the need to bring a distinctively Hindu vision of life in every sphere of life, most particularly their politics. And I don't expect him to change from that. If anything, it's going to be the secularists, the globalists, are going to have to move more in his direction. Now, keep in mind, India is very strong in terms of its global economics, but it's not globalist because it always tames its economics in accordance with what's best for the culture. Thank you, Marco. Rich, Dr. Steve, there is a group called Omega for America that claims there are tons of fake voter addresses in all the states that are unseen by the RNC and all the national voter groups because they use old technology instead of new fractal technology. They have convincing videos on their website, and their main point is that the Democrats can still cheat without being caught and steal this election. What are your thoughts on it? I don't know the thesis. Don't know the group. Don't know the thesis, Rich. So I couldn't comment on it. Make sure, though, that people like Scott Pressler and Early Vote Action and pro MAGA Trump groups have access to those videos so that they can take action. Wendy, do you know of any banks that either cater to patriots or are very well capitalized? Most banks are at risk of failing due to being over-invested in commercial real estate or low-interest bonds. We're going to be selling our home, and we'll need someplace safe to hold the funds until we can reinvest the money. Wendy Boyd. Yeah, Wendy, sure, absolutely. Old Glory Bank in Oklahoma. They're wonderful. I know the CEO of Old Glory Bank. They're fully conservative. Larry Elder's on the board. I believe even Ben Carson, I think, is on the board. Just double check, confirm that. But they're awesome. They're amazing. I think they're coming up with their own credit card that you can use. They or a payment processing system that'll never get canceled. They're fully totally conservative, totally MAGA. So Old Glory Bank, you can use them. Christian credit unions. There's lots of local Christian credit unions. We've had some JV guys on here. Some of our partners who have advocated that. Don't go with the big banks. Go more with the credit unions and the Christian credit unions. So those would be two options for you. Definitely. I'm with you. I'm very concerned about debanking. I'm very concerned about how the national banks volunteer our information, our private information, to the deep state. And Old Glory Bank and these credit unions will not do that, as I understand it. Richard, Dr. Steve, will DAs or AGs in Arkansas and Florida indict the Clintons and James Biden? We're waiting. We're waiting, Richard. I'm with you 1,001 gazillion%. We're waiting. None of them have done it. And again, you even have someone like John Yoo, who's as measured and as moderate as you can possibly be. I mean, in the middle of Berkeley, right? Berkeley Law School, coming out and saying that's what the Republicans are going to have to do. Until they do that, the Democrats are going to continue with the lawfare undeterred. Rock Dog, Dr. Steve, my grandfather, who landed at Omaha Beach, God bless him and you, is rolling over in his grave yesterday. Oh, gosh. Yeah, you saw it. The pedo-in-chief was embarrassing an entire world stage. Do you think next week the polls might show some of those undecideds literally deciding Trump is the best option after that embarrassing performance? I hope his butt got wiped. Oh, man, that's right. Poopy pants. It did. I could tell you, Rock Dog, it did not. As this is, and you saw it in the reaction that Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough. Joe Scarborough is a very well-spoken fellow. Okay, he ran for Congress and won in '94, I believe, in Florida. He's been on MSNBC for 20 years. He used to be a good guy. He went nuts for obvious reasons. Won't get into it and won't go into the gutter there. But he. Whenever he stumbles, whenever he's he's upset, and he is clearly upset that Biden's age is becoming the number one issue of this campaign, and the ceremonies yesterday did not help Biden. It any more than the Her report helped him or this Wall Street Journal report. This did not help Biden. And so at the very, very least, we could say, if those are on the fence about him and are concerned about his cognitive decline, saw those videos, it will definitely push them in the direction. We'll see if the polls actually show it. Marcode, didn't they find a dead assistant? Marcode, you did it. Yeah, wasn't going to go there. I wasn't going to go there. Marcode. See, this is why we have the best audience in the freaking world. We are all so simpatico. That's and I'm just going to say, Marcode, if I can, this is why any of you who have met me and we've hung out, you'll know one of my favorite things is just hang out with you guys. If we meet and I've got time, or if I'm at a conference and we're just hanging out at the bar or whatever, we'll go to the wee hour. There are no group of people on the planet that I love talking to more than Charlie Talkers. There's something just very simpatico about us. And it was not something I ever imagined would happen. But I've just noticed over the last 7 years, whenever I hang out with you guys, it's always amazing. And look at what Marco did. I go and I say, I don't want to go into the gutter. And what does he do? Marcode goes into the gutter because he knows exactly what I'm talking about. Didn't they find a dead assistant, Joe Scarborough's? I know it was his office, if I recall. It was his office. Nothing was done about it. I don't know the specifics of why nothing was done about it. But yes, it was an assistant that he allegedly had an affair with. So yes, there's some very strange skeletons in his closet. Kevin, I do not understand how there could be enough gullible, cordyceps-infested people to give Democrats, much less Biden, 39% support. I have trouble supporting more than 3% of Republican vote because you have a conscience. You have a moral compass. I'm still a believer that they all start their political career looking for sponsors like BlackRock to pad the portfolio. They'll have to flip a coin to see if they have to pretend to be Republican. Right. That's exactly right. Yeah, Kevin. So, whenever somebody says, I just don't understand, the very first phrase or term I have in my head is post-normality or post-normal times. We live in it. When I say I'm here to keep you sane in insane times, I'm talking specifically about the concept of post-normality. We are living in an insane time, and it doesn't make a lot of sense because we're in a time in between the old era and a new era. We're in between the no longer and the not yet. And unfortunately, for a lot of people coming out of the old era, for whatever reason, it could be for racial grievances, gender grievances, sexual grievances. That's what the cultural Marxists push. Environmental grievances. For whatever reason, there are, like, I think you hit it, about 30% of the country hates America. And they are what we technically refer to as post-American. And they will vote Kevorkian vote. They will vote to kill the country. That's what it's a Kevorkian vote. They're voting to destroy. Tucker had a very interesting take on this over the week. I forget the interview he was having. Bald fellow. Oh, what's his name? I'm forgetting. It was a brilliant interview. I actually loved listening to Tucker. Tucker is just a very insightful person. And he basically accused the ruling class of being vandals. They're graffiti artists. They don't build. They don't create. They destroy. That's what they do. That's people who can't build, people who can't create, or who don't have this overwhelming appreciation for civilization and what we've inherited. They have no problem destroying. That's BLM. That's La Raza. That's feminism. That's trans issues. They hate. They despise the cultural institute. They hate the church. They hate, and if they and then what they do is they go in and they revamp the church. They hollow it out. They hate the family. So what do? They revamp the family. They completely redefine it in a way no human civilization before us would have ever had the gall of doing, because they know it was civilizational suicide. So I think that's why, in the end. I think that's why. And the Republican Party has done nothing, literally zero to change that, to fight back against that. It's so sad. Thank you, Kevin. Joan, have you read the June 4th, 2004 article from the American Conservative? Here are the connections between the people. There's no more? Connections between the people. I have not. Let me see if no more. Mike is telling me no more. Let me see if I've got that. It's not giving me any results for some reason. Here we go. Oh, yeah, here we go. Oh, but this is I think, did you mean June 4th? I bet you meant 2024, because here are the connections between the people behind Trump's prosecutions. There you go. Joan, do I have to fill in all the blanks for you? Conspiracy is a strong word, but the interlocking cliques are undeniable. I have not read this, and I am going to read it with anticipation. Thank you, Joan, for that. Everybody might want to check that out. American Conservative. Here are the connections between the people behind Trump's prosecutions. Conspiracy is a strong word, but the interlocking cliques are undeniable. I love it. Very good. Thank you, Joan, for that resource. Carol, I heard on Newsmax that the federal government's requiring the states to issue voting credentials to aliens when they access state agencies for benefits assistance. This was revealed by a Mississippi official. Is this true? And Is this the Democrats' plan for cheating this election? Well, I'm sure. Yeah. So, Carol, I'm sure it's one of them. Yeah. I do. Again, if you're not a citizen, it is illegal for you to vote in a federal election. You cannot vote. State, local, they've got their own stuff, but you cannot vote in a federal election if you're illegal. So if there are any shenanigans in that area, we all have the moral high ground. We all have the legal high ground. Make sure you find it, highlight it, and bring it to the Republican Party's, the RNC's attention. I would bring it to Early Vote Action's, EVA's attention, and the Trump campaign's attention. Catherine, will we learn what they have been giving Biden to make him alert? I was told, by the way, I'll just put that in parentheses. I was told by a doctor exactly what it is, that he thinks it's a cocktail, but I couldn't remember. It's all this ephraim and blabladim and blah, 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 right? Will they be held accountable, turn on each other, or will they turn on each other? The human body can only take so much before it starts to break down, apparently, beginning with his brain in Biden's case. It's so interesting how the health of the president affects the entire country. It's true. He's a microcosm, isn't he, of the entire country, from top government down to the people. I used to think it didn't really matter who the president was, only the people under him. Ha, ha, ha. Changed my mind about that. Yeah, Catherine, I don't know what it is, but you're very right. I mean, and then traditionally, you read like Shakespeare's Macbeth, or even Hamlet. When the politics is corrupt, there's a darkness that covers the country. There's this very interesting sort of politics ecology connection in a lot of Shakespeare's plays. But again, that's just par for the course. If the rulers are wicked, a very evil spell gets cast over the people. You see it in Narnia, when Jadis the witch takes over Narnia. It's always winter and never Christmas. And then it's over. Her reign is coming to an end when Aslan returns and springtime starts coming and the world starts to thaw and the birds and the sun come out again. So, Melkesh, I approve of J.D. Vance. Yeah. Or Marjorie Taylor Greene should be wonderful. But when Rubio was up for VP with Mitt, I texted Mitt to let him know Rubio isn't qualified due to his birth, and he's too much of a neocon. What do you think? I don't know anything about the birth element. That's just my own ignorance. I am worried about Rubio. I'm worried that he is just the deep state would be way too comfortable with him because he can be manipulated. Yeah, I mean McCain manipulated him. I mean he's this rising star 2010 senator. Gets voted in Florida by a landslide, overwhelming. What's the first thing he does? Starts hanging out with McCain and the Gang of Seven or whatever they were. He became a part of the Gang of Seven. So, and for amnesty. So, absurd stuff. I'm with you. Jeff, Dr. Steve, what do you think about Fox trying to prevent Trump for taking justified retribution? I saw that. Yeah, I don't know. Look, I mean, so Fox is Rupert Murdoch. Rupert Murdoch hates Trump. He despises Trump. So that's why you'll see have seen a lot of New York Post articles being very anti-Trump. They were one of the first to embrace Biden in 2020 after November 3rd. So, yeah, again, they've made their money in a world that no longer exists. And Fox is learning that the hard way. Right? You all know they've lost. They're probably down to half their audience. I forgot what the stats are, but I have seen that ever since they got rid of Tucker, Dan Bongino. These guys, Tucker and Bongino, have never been more popular. Right? They're now officially independent content creators. Megyn Kelly, I mean, she kind of burned her own bridges, as it were, but now she's on her way back doing amazing stuff as an independent content creator. And I think she sees the light now, especially after NBC burned her. I just think the world of Rupert Murdoch is gone. Again, now there's the lag. There's a lag. That world continues to live on through Fox, but I don't think they recognize that the world where, okay, stop fighting, and let's just keep this wonderful globalist, sphere going, so we continue to make all our money and our advertisers are happy and we have no barriers in our international alliances and so forth, economic alliances that make us rich. Just those days are over. It's a new world that's rising. It's a multipolar world that operates just by very, very different rules. And the number one rule is you protect your culture. The number one rule is you protect your identity as a people. And if anyone is attacking the culture, they are enemy number one. They don't see that. Sean Hannity doesn't see it. Sean Hannity's a globalist. Very much a globalist. I mean, his comments about Ukraine were so over the top, repulsively ignorant. It was just, I couldn't even, anyway. I could open up that can of worms, but I won't. There you go, Jeff. That's what I think. Billy, thanks to Dr. Steve for all you and your staff do. On a different subject, what are your thoughts on the Passion translation of the Bible? Thanks a bunch. I do not know the Passion translation. Let's see. Is it named after the movie? Mel Gibson's The Passion. The Passion Bible. I don't know it. I just don't know. So I wouldn't be able to tell you. You're the first to tell me about it. Which doesn't mean any, I'm not in deep into the theological circles that I used to be. So when I was teaching at the classical school where I taught theology. Joseph, hey, Steve, do you think assassination is the only move that the Democrats can do to Trump? God forbid, but that's again, that's what Tucker and Nayib Bukele were talking about. They were all saying, it looks, it's scary. I mean, it is. I fear for him. I mean, just look at what they're doing to Nigel Farage, right? I mean, they throw a milkshake on him to embarrass him. But there are open, as I understand, there are open comments out there that are people saying, no, make sure next time it's battery acid. They're just insane. You have Robert Fico in Slovakia getting shot, and he's been an openly resistant to more aid to Ukrainian joining NATO, even the EU for that matter. And it's just openly resistant towards the WHO. It's scary stuff. Very, very scary stuff. Again, they see their world dying, so they don't know what else to do. The left does. Molly, your take on India's situation politically. Thank you. Yeah, I have to assess it more. Sorry, I am a little bit behind on that. Modi wins again, like he should have. He did not get the majority he wanted. Let's see, what's the latest? We'll have to see. I'm going to have to look at the coalition that he does form. Yeah, so it was a win, but it wasn't a landslide. And we'll just have to see where the Bharatiya Janata Party is as a result. And what the only thing I would say is I think he still has the power to move the politics in his direction rather than the other way around. So another party can join the coalition and begin to now influence policy. But I think they will find quickly that the influence is moving in the direction of the BJP and Hindu nationalism rather than, say, the National Congress and more global secular globalism. William, what do you think about Sarah Huckabee Sanders as a VP candidate? Not really. I'm not a big fan of saying. I mean, she's okay. She's good, but she's not great. I think she's a little too neocon. A lot of people in Arkansas have told that to me. So I'd be a little concerned about that. Mike, it seems that the American political landscape has grown more complex than it used to be. Yeah. And that more political parties would better represent the views of the people. Oh, would you agree with that? And that could we ever have a multi-party system in America? It'd be hard. America really is structured around a two-party system. But I mean, it could. You could get a Ross Perot party, a patriot party, kind of populist party. I mean, he took 20% of the vote. That killed Bush Sr., destroyed him. All the studies afterwards showed that he would have won if it weren't for Perot. People were willing to give him another chance. Although again, Clinton pushed populism. Clinton ran as a Southern populist. So the populism and both Southern, interestingly enough, either from Clinton or Perot together made up 60% of the vote that year, nearly 60%. So I don't know. I don't know if we can ever do that multi-party. I don't know if that'll work. I just, the way I think it would work is a new party would spring up and replace the Republican Party. But you're right. We are factional. We are complex. The world's breaking up. We're breaking up. The question is whether civic nationalism can unite us. A Maga can unite the factional parties. Colleen, what do you think of Trump's chances are of taking New York? Well, I mean, it's remote. It's going to be hard, but he has more of a chance of winning New York than Biden has of winning Texas or Florida. That's for sure. And everyone's like, oh, maybe Biden couldn't do it this year. Yeah, right. I mean, it's just, again, they're just doing anything they can to try to jumpstart this lame, horrible campaign of Biden's. It's just so bad. So 20%, 30%, it might get better, 40%. It's hard, though. It's hard to win New York. Lee Zeldin came within a few points, came very, very close. There have been, Trump will win 90% of the counties in New York. He will certainly do that, but it's just, Manhattan seems so hell-bent on just destroying itself and the world. They just seem so hell-bent on hating America. It's if that jury is any indicator. We'll have to see. Maybe the South Bronx will come to the rescue. Philip, Claudia Sheinbaum was elected in Mexico. Many of their opponents turned up dead. She is a sauciest. What do you see with her, and how will it affect us? It's a very good question, and I just haven't caught up to the Mexican election. I've read a little bit about her. She's a leftist, radical, dozens dead as a result of it. Seems very odd, very strange. And it just seems very unique to Mexico. Yeah, Steve, you popularized publishing ghost silvers among us, and you can't help but wonder why they disappeared after they were paid. You put your popularity and authority on advertising for them. You can't pretend it doesn't concern you. Please answer. Sorry, Yev. If you got an issue with that, I don't even know what you're talking about, dude. I don't even know. Marcode, didn't Token write, evil cannot create, it can only pervert and destroy what good men have built. Just look at the rings of power. At least people recognize the evil and have ratioed their trailers 5-1 against. Yeah, you got it, Marcode. This is when somebody asks what keeps you positive. It's the recognition that evil cannot win. Evil cannot win because evil by itself is not a thing. Evil is parasitic. Evil requires the good in order for it to exist. So evil is the corruption of good. it's the violation of the light, as it were. But it's not, you turn on light, you don't turn on darkness. Darkness is the absence of light. Evil is the hole in a shirt. So the good can never, ever, ever be thwarted, ultimately. The good will always win in the end, because evil ironically requires the good for its own existence. To pervert it, no question. And it does so for a time. But then that's it. So great point, Marco. Dude, do you know that Southern African states, which are predominantly Christian, are also resisting strongly against Muslim immigration? Check out what Angola, Botswana, Namibia, Zimbabwe, South Africa. Yeah, oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, you told the UK, and regardless to that, God bless. Let's see. Yeah, no question. I mean, you take northern and southern Nigeria. I mean, they're constantly, with Boko Haram and so forth, they're constantly having almost a civil war over this issue. Southern being primarily Christian, northern being primarily Islamic. So yeah, absolutely. No, southern sub-Sahara Africa has no patience for the clash of civilizations. Old Polar, does the turtle take over Senate with the latest Dems switching parties? No, because if you're talking about Manchin, no, Manchin is still caucusing with the Democrats, so they're still there. Plus, I think Rick Scott is going to challenge him. Vicky T, Dr. Steve, what do you think will happen with the Hunter Biden trial? Do you think he'll be found guilty? What do you if he is, what do you think will happen? So it's happening down the road from me. And I don't know how to read it. One part of me says this is just a sham trial. They're gonna let him off. It's Hunter's. I mean, everybody knows everybody in Delaware. This is a problem. This is the curse of living in a tiny little state. Everybody knows everybody. And so everybody knows Hunter's a problem child. Everybody knows it. Will they convict him? I don't know. The other side of me says, well, they may want to force a conviction so as to keep up the appearance of fairness, given what just happened to Trump, but they won't do anything to it. He'll take one for the team, but there won't be anything major. Look, when all's said and done, the firearm charge is the least of them all. I mean, what do you think about all this thing this guy's been involved in with all these overseas illicit business deals, and they're charging him with a freaking firearm violation? So in the end, I just think it's a joke. I do. It's a sham. I haven't covered it just because I just think in the end it's a sham, one way or the other. If they convict him, I think it's a sham conviction in the sense that they wanted to show that there's some semblance of a rule of law there, which we all know there isn't. If they don't convict him, it's all because, it's a sham jury. They all knew him. They weren't going to convict the guy they live right next to. So I don't take a lot of stock of this. I just think this is a goofy trial. Al Davis, my wife is very ill and I'm requesting prayer for her. Please let us know her name, Al Davis, and we'll absolutely be praying for everybody. Make sure you're praying for Al Davis's wife and ask for God's blessing and his resurrection touch to bathe her body at this point. And that's it. All right, gang. I love you. Have a great weekend, and I will see you on